What's going on, Fourth and Inches podcast listeners? You got Dan, Kevin, Stevie P coming at you. What's going on, fellas?
What's going on, boys? What's going on, world?
What's up, everybody?
All right, so today is Friday. We're going to go over last night's game, break down the games for this Sunday. But first, don't forget to check us out on our website, www.fourthandinchesff.com. That is www.4THNINCHESFF.com for a bunch of content. You got articles, blogs, player profiles, rankings, and you can subscribe to our VIP content. This will give you access to DFS info and it'll also give you access to the cheat codes, which we will be keeping updated monthly. So check those out and also look for us on the Fantasy Life app. We'll be doing start-sit questions on there throughout the year. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating. Also, if you're interested in joining us on a FanDuel tournament, we do a $2 tournament, nothing crazy. Just to keep in touch with you guys, you can play us in the daily fantasy and, test your wits against us on Sunday. And if you're interested in that, hit up Stevie P in the show notes and he will send you the invitation. And now we will get on to the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, so to start it off, Josh Gordon, of course, was released by the Patriots and went through the waivers and was claimed by the Seahawks. So Josh Gordon will be a member of the Seahawks. He will not be playing this weekend against Tampa Bay, but his first game will be next Monday night against the 49ers. So they will get Josh Gordon for, their 49ers division matchup, which is a big one. Joe Flacco has been placed on IR and his season is over. Dwayne Haskins will be getting the start this Sunday for the Redskins. To me, that really, kind of could hurt Terry McLaurin, but, it'll be interesting to see, how that affects that team. George Kittle, you saw him with the knee injury yesterday. Kyle Shanahan said, had his MRI, everything looks good. So shouldn't be anything, crazy. We shouldn't be missing some time. Now I'm going to go through basically all the injuries. I'll go you first the players that are out. We have Chase Edmonds, Delaney Walker, Chris Thompson, Case Keenum, and T.Y. Hilton are all out. T.Y. Hilton, Frank Reich said could be out for like 3 weeks now. So if you had T.Y. Hilton, you're going to have to look for other options for the next few weeks coming up. Look at those Jets receivers. Doubtful players is James Conner. So, Jalen Samuel could be getting a lot of run this week because Benny Snell is also out. So if Snell and Conner are not going to play, Jalen Samuel is going to be the feature back there in Pittsburgh. Questionable. You got Trey Carson. He popped up on the, injury report, I believe, yesterday. James White popped on the injury report today, along with Julian Edelman and Rex Burkhead. Patrick Mahomes is questionable, but more than likely he's not going to play. Deshaun Jackson is questionable, but it's looking like he will play. Adam Thielen and Devontae Adams are both questionable as well. With note to Trey Carson, Detroit did work out Jay Ajayi today. I didn't hear any news about him signing or anything like that, but it's just something that you might want to pay attention to because they are in need of a running back. And guys that are good to go that, missed practice or anything like that, you have Eric Ebron. He should be good to go this week. Sterling Shepard, clear concussion protocol. He's probably good to go this week. Keenan Allen is good to go this week. He was not on the injury report. And Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham are both should be good to go this weekend, and Miles Sanders should be good to go this weekend. Marquise Brown didn't practice yesterday, but should be good to go according to John Harbaugh as well. And that is pretty much it for the injuries and the news. You guys want to touch on anything?
Nothing that we can't get to in the game breakdowns.
All right.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, so let's go through over last night's game. You had the 49ers beat the Cardinals 28-25. And Jimmy G had himself a night. Why don't we talk about Jimmy G's night?
Yeah. It was a whole lot of Kittle and a whole lot of Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders looked awesome. I mean, we kind of, in the preseason, we were talking about how, Dante Pettis could be something because, the ex-receiver in a Kyle Shanahan offense has been very good. It's been guys like Pierre Garçon, and it's gotten guys like, Julio Jones, and just guys that play under Kyle Shanahan at the ex-receiver position just have been awesome. There's no other way to say it. They've just been really good. And, Emmanuel Sanders is a very good wide receiver, and we basically told you guys in the beginning of the season, I think all of us were pretty high on Emmanuel Sanders, taking him, I think he was going around 9, and we were toting him around, 8, 7, so that we would like to get him there because we thought he was going to be good. And now that he's on this 49ers offense, man, Jimmy G just looks very comfortable throwing to him. He gets open quickly. He was eating Patrick Peterson's lunch last night, and it was a big contributing factor to why Jimmy G had had the game he had.
Yeah, they look like they've been playing for years instead of week 2 together. They were completely on the same page. I mean, that one pass was they didn't really highlight too much.
About.
What's that?
I
know what I'm talking about?
Exactly what pass you're talking about.
As soon as Emmanuel Sanders turned, the ball was in his hands. It reminded me like the old Peyton Manning days where Peyton would just drop that ball in there when people would Peyton would be like, just run your perfect route and that ball would be placed right in there. That's what it looked like. I mean, he turned, and as soon as he turned, his eyes had to be, I mean, it's a good thing he's got good hands because that ball was boom right in his hands, and then took it upfield for a couple more yards. But even that nice out route on 4th down, he juked, like you said, Patrick Peterson just had no answer for him all night.
Yeah. Kittle and Emmanuel Sanders look great in this game. Emmanuel Sanders could be looking at a weekly start going forward at this point if he's going to play like that. I mean, that's one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL, and he was just toasting Patrick Peterson. In the run game, Matt Breida had 15 for 78. He when Tevin Coleman was on the field, it literally looked like Arizona was just geared up to stop Tevin Coleman in this game. Like, we all know what he did last week, with the 4 touchdowns, and he had a ton of he basically had a ton of yards per carry, because I think he only had 12 carries in the game and still had over 100 yards or close to. But this game, they really just bottled him up. But Breida had way more open holes, and me and Steve texted during the game and was like, that Kyle Shanahan zone run scheme is crazy. And when Breida was out there, man, you could literally drive trucks through the holes that line was opening up. But better days are going to be ahead for Tevin Coleman. They just didn't need him to run touchdowns because Jimmy G was just on fire.
He had one that was called. He did have one that was called back
on a holding call. Yeah, he had a touchdown call back on a holding call.
Oh, he did. That's right. He did. That's right. You know what? Now that you say that, I am reminded that. Yeah, it was on Kittle, and then it was on Kittle. Yep, it was on Kittle, and then
they said they had 8 touchdowns called back this year on penalties. That is ridiculous,
dude. Kittle by himself has 4.
I was going to say the first game they had 2. They played Tampa game 1, and in the first half, both teams had 2 touchdowns called back because of penalties.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. It's crazy. It's crazy. The holding calls are getting the holding calls are starting to get a little bit ridiculous. I thought they would die down, and this happens every year. It happens every year in the NFL where they change a rule, and the way they try to make up for changing that rule is they try to get more strict on play calls, and holding is normally one of those play calls that happens a lot. That they say it all the time. You can call holding on every play, but they literally been calling on every big play in the NFL. You're almost praying. Literally, I sit there and I watch games and I literally go, "Oh my God, please don't call holding." It's getting to that point. It's getting to the point where every time one of my players has a big play and I see it and I'm like, please don't call holding. It's getting to that point, and that's just makes the game not fun. They need to calm down with all these holding calls. And don't get me wrong, that specific one Kittle definitely held him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That was
a hold.
Yeah, that was a hold. That was not even close. But there have been really close calls that they are calling that it's like, come on, dude, really? Are you serious?
All right, from the Cardinals side of the ball, Kyler Murray actually had a really good game, especially against a good defense like this. Goes for 241 and 2 touchdowns. Of course, the long one to Andy Isabella was like, the highlight where Isabella just took off and, kind of outran a couple of I was actually surprised because he's known for being a speedster. He kind of got hawked down a little bit, but was able to break the tackle.
That was just an angle thing. Yeah, that was just an angle thing.
But he was on him. I mean, he did catch up to him.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about Kyler's performance yesterday? He tried to bring him back in the game, just couldn't do it.
I think
show good poise.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, watching the game, I thought Kyler. He ended up with a good stat line, but he was kind of off last night. He had in the first quarter, he had a pass to Christian Kirk that he airmailed 10 miles over his head. It was like, come on, bro. He's like wide open. Like, what are you doing?
Another one to the tight end where he faked a run and stepped back and dropped it over to defense, but it was just too high. He couldn't get it to his.
Yeah, he had a couple of air mails last night. I mean, for overall, he had a good game, but Kyler, I think sometimes he, is a little bit overzealous with some of his throws, which kind of hurts his overall stat lines. Because last night he honestly could have had over 300 easily. He had a couple of guys drop passes, like Keyshawn Johnson dropped a. What was it, like a 13-yard pass that would have got him a first down, and he probably could have ran for another 10, 15 yards because there was really nobody around him. Kyler, I thought Kyler looked good last night. He just, he could have been much, much better.
All right. Now let's get to one of the good storylines, like Kenyon Drake. I mean, Kenyon Drake looked great in his first game in Arizona.
Thank God this dude has a team. He finally has a team that doesn't suck ass, and he showed how good he could be. I've been saying it for years, bro. Kev, come on, Kev. I've been saying that shit for years.
He's a good running back, man. He just never got the opportunity to showcase it. And last night you saw it. He goes 15 for 110 yards and a touchdown. He catches 4 balls for 52 yards. He was the man last night. You're talking about 162 total yards on 19 touches. Give this man the ball. God, what is wrong with Miami? That is the definition of tanking. When a guy does this and he shows that potential and you've never given him the ball. It seems like, whatever, man.
They've never given him a team, bro. He's never had an offensive line. He's never had, Adam Gase, I'm come to this conclusion, might be the worst coach in the NFL. He just might be. Because
he has Le'Veon Bell and they'll give him the ball.
Yeah, just it doesn't make no sense. He's trying to throw with a second-year quarterback and no wide receivers. He's throwing 9 times a game to Demaryius Thomas. Come on, man. Really? There's no reason that Le'Veon Bell shouldn't be getting 20 touches a game, period, in any game script. Le'Veon Bell is probably the best receiving back out of the backfield, in football. If not number 1, he's 2 or 3. He's one of the best. There's no reason this guy should be touching the ball less than 20 times a game on any game script. I don't care if they're winning or losing. He should be getting touches.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. And yeah, I agree. And from the pass catchers on Arizona, Larry gets 4 for 38. Isabella had that long 88-yard touchdown, but that was his only target. Keyshawn Johnson a little bit, Christian Kirk, everybody, Christian Kirk had 2 for 8, but he had 5 targets. He got the most targets on the team. I don't think you can start any pass catchers on this team with confidence because they are just spreading the ball around so much. And, nobody's really the primary target in Arizona.
Yeah, and Kirk was open a lot last night. I think they may have game scripted it that they weren't going to go to Kirk because of Richard Sherman, but honestly, he was open a lot last night. He was beating Sherman a couple of times. He beat Sherman that I was like, dude, just throw him the ball. You're not even looking his way.
All right, so it pretty much wraps up the game. Nothing else really to talk about for fantasy purposes. if you started San Fran's defense, what did San Fran's defense get you? Do you know offhand what San Fran's defense got?
I know they had
They
3
didn't do well.
sacks
They
in the game.
got a couple points.
Yeah, they had like 3 sacks in the game, and they could have had a pick 6 in the game. Honestly, there was a.
Oh yeah, that one ball was right in his hands. He had nothing but about 30 yards in front of him.
Yeah, Fred Warner, it hit him right in the hands. He drops it. Could have definitely been a pick 6, but other than that, they didn't do a whole lot of anything.
Yeah, they got 3 fantasy points in this league that I'm in, which is pretty standard scoring. So 3 points, that's not really doing too much for you. From a defense that you expect a whole lot more from. So let's get into this weekend's games. I'll start it off. I got the London game. That's the 9:30 Texans Jaguars game. We got football at the crack of ass. This week.
I hate that. I cannot stand that.
Well, for years you've worked it. I don't know if you've always worked on Sunday mornings until like noon,
Yeah,
so you probably missed most of those games.
Mm-hmm.
So from the Texans side of the ball, I mean, Deshaun Watson is an obvious start. DeAndre Hopkins is an obvious start. So Kenny Stills, he's going to have Trey Herndon on him. Steve has talked about Trey Herndon a lot and how he's been getting beat. So this could be a week where Kenny Stills winds up breaking loose. A lot of people thought it was going to happen last week, with Will Fuller going down. But I do think the Kenny Stills blow-up week is coming. He does have that potential. So I wouldn't, with 4 teams on a bye, if you need to start a receiver and you're, kind of tight, I would definitely throw Kenny Stills in there and not hesitate one bit. Carlos Hyde to me is a little bit of a struggle. Jags defense against the run has been pretty good. So I don't know if I'd really want to start Carlos Hyde, but like I said, 4 teams are on a bye. If you're kind of hurting at running back, Carlos Hyde he's going to get a lot of the work. He's getting most of the touches there. So, Darren Fells is another one. If you need a tight end and with guys on the waiver, with guys on the bye weeks, and such, being such a wasteland at that position, Darren Fells gets a lot of red zone work. It almost seems like he's scoring every other week. And last week he got 2, but if you need a tight end, I would rather have Fells over Akins just because of the potential touchdown. From the Jaguar side of the ball, I think you're starting Minshew if you have him. If you need a quarterback, Minshew has the potential to go off. We saw him last week. He scored, I think, over 30 fantasy points. Definitely has that potential against Houston because Houston could get out to a big lead or, score a lot of points, and they might have to catch up. I do think they're going to be running the ball a lot with Fournette. So, of course, Fournette is a start. And, of course, you're starting DJ Chark at this point. DJ Chark right now is like the number 5 wide receiver in fantasy scoring. Like, he's an automatic start. And I would not hesitate. I wouldn't worry about throwing D.D. Westbrook in there if you needed to start him as well. If you need a receiver, I do think the Jags are going to have to throw in this game. So D.D. Westbrook is another guy I would throw in there as well.
Yep, I agree. I think, honestly, if you're hurting at running back this week and you have Carlos Hyde, I would start him only because Dwayne Smoot has taken over for Marcel Darius, and Marcel Darius is a pretty good run defender. If anything, he does a good job in that. So he'll be manning that spot. Last week, the Jets really couldn't take advantage of that because the Jets' offensive line is just straight hot trash. Probably one of the worst in the league, especially with losing Clutchio Samali and losing basically pieces on their offensive line. They've just been bad. So they weren't able to take advantage of it. But, the Texans should be able to run the ball a little bit in this game, I would think. So if you needed, Carlos Hyde, I don't mind, putting him in the lineups this week.
All right, Steve, you are up. You have the Bills and Redskins.
Bills and Redskins. This is going to be an interesting game, honestly. Just looking at the game total, it's a 37 over-under, which is not very exciting. But, it's it's a really bad, and honestly, the Redskins' defense is really not terrible. You know what I mean? We saw what they did with the Vikings last week. They played the Vikings pretty tough. I think the offense puts them in terrible situations, and if you look at, Dwayne Haskins and what he's been so far this year, he could really hurt this team this week. So the Buffalo defense is like, a key play for me this week. In DFS, they're like ridiculous. I think they're like 5,800. I think they're the highest priced defense all year.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, all year. And it's just.
I don't know about all year, but they're definitely the highest this week.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think, I know the Patriots have been up there. I don't think the Patriots have hit $6,000 though. But anyway, Buffalo's defense is just going up against Dwayne Haskins. We saw what Dwayne Haskins has looked like this year. He just, it doesn't look like he has very much confidence to me, and it looked like it could be a very long day for him. So we'll go with the Washington side of the ball. Honestly, Terry McLaurin, I'm starting him as a desperation play. If I don't have anything else and I need to put Terry in the lineup, I would this week. But against this Buffalo secondary, they're just a very good secondary. I mean, whether he's going to see Tre'Davious White or he's going to see, Levi Wallace, either guy is, a very good corner. If they move him into the slot, he's still going to see Teron Johnson. It's just a defense that can stop him. And with these two free safeties, Hyde and Poyer, they're stopping everything. I mean, these guys are just really good. So on the Redskins side of the ball, I would think about McLaurin if I absolutely needed him, and Adrian Peterson. And really that's it. And AP, honestly, I think the Bills are going, after that Eagles game, I think the Bills are going to make it a point to shut down the run. The past 2 weeks they've actually given up some points to running backs. So I think they make it a point to, leave these corners on an island and do their thing and really focus on stopping the run this week. So, AP for me is a play in, desperation mode. If you have guys on bye, we do have the Rams, the Bengals, the Saints and the Falcons on bye. So, there's some good running backs there. So you might have some bye week issues, and you might have to start them. But I'm not going to be excited about it. On the Bills side of the ball, to me, John Brown has proven to be an every week starter. If you're not starting John Brown by now, I don't know what you're waiting for. He's just been the most targeted wide receiver on the team. He's seeing 25% of the targets on the team. He's getting open quickly. He's getting open. The one thing you can say about, Brown is that he's not hitting deep passes the way he's been in past years, but the Bills offense, they're not really going deep all that often. And when they are, Dwayne Allen is airmailing the hell out of the world because the dude has a cannon and just has no accuracy downfield. So, Brown is definitely a starter for me. Allen is a start for me if you have one of those quarterbacks on buys and you have Kyle Allen. I don't mind. Josh Allen. Oh, what the hell, Josh Allen.
It's a lot of Allens.
I was going to say, you got Brandon Allen now? Jesus, the last name is pretty popular for a quarterback position.
I know,
now.
Right? It's just way too many. But yeah, Josh Allen, if you need a quarterback, I think he's a good one this week. Going up against this Redskins defense, I think they're going to have a hard time containing him. I think, Josh Allen gets going this week. Devin Singletary, I actually love this week. I'm actually playing him in a lot of DFS, some GPPs, just because I think he has some real big upside in this game. I think Buffalo is going to be able to move the ball against this Washington defense, and I think they're going to make it a point to stop the run. And if they can do that, Washington's going to have a real tough time scoring. And I could see Dwayne Haskins throwing some air-mailed balls that get intercepted and put the Bills in really good, field position. And if that happens, I think, Frank Gore could have an okay game, and Devin Singletary, I think, definitely has a good game in this game. So for me, the last guy I'll talk about is Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley, I've been telling you guys this every week. I think he has 1 week. We checked it last week. He has 1 week with less than double-digit fantasy points. He's not exciting. He's not going to win you a week. But this week and next week, or 4 teams on bye this week, 6 teams on bye next week. He's a guy that you can throw in your lineup, and he's going to, he's got a safe floor of 10 points.
All right. Yeah, I actually do like Cole Beasley. I mean, he seems like he's just getting a lot of catches. Sometimes he's getting in the end zone as well. Dan, you're up next. You got Eagles Bears.
All right, so this Eagles Bears game. I guess if you're the Eagles, I guess they've been talking about pretty much try to keep the Bears are a very similar team than the Bills are right now. I mean, I think the Bills' offense is better, but they are very similar teams where they're both very defensive oriented. So as far as the Eagles go, run the same script, hopefully have the same success, but I don't think they're gonna have back-to-back really killer offensive weeks against two extraordinary defenses. So obviously, if you have Carson Wentz, you're not, you're going to play him. You don't really have a backup that, you like better. So, I mean, Carson Wentz is pretty much your every week starter, even against the Bears. Some other guys, that you probably play a lot on the Eagles, you could probably, you might want to sit. I would play Alshon just because he's pretty much, he's pretty much matchup proof. He is Wentz's go-to target. I'd play Ertz because it's only a matter of time before Ertz has that really big game. I mean, this was the number one receiving tight end of all time last year. So, as far as receptions go, so you really can't sit Ertz with, just knowing that in the back of your mind. Deshaun Jackson is still questionable, but according to camp, he's been practicing pretty good this week. So they are expecting him to play. I don't know. I would play him coming off of, the injury up against a good Bears team. You don't want to take that risk of him coming out a drive or two and then tweaking something, and then you just wasted a starter. He's also that guy that can burn you for 80 yards anytime, so it's catch-22. The running back situations, it's week 9. We're still in committee. I don't think I like either of them too much this week. Miles and Jordan, I think either of them could have a decent game. Jordan can get some goal line work, but I think they're both going to be in that 10 to 12 point range. Which, if you have anybody little higher projected, I would probably steam that way. On the Bear side of the ball, you got to start Mitchell Trubisky. No, I'm just kidding. You don't start Mitchell Trubisky. I don't care if it is the Eagles secondary. You don't start Mitchell Trubisky. I actually think the Eagles secondary is going to devise a good game plan against him because he makes a lot of mistakes and he just looks lost back there. So as much as we have been, gung-ho about quarterbacks and receivers against this Eagles secondary, I think that, I like the Eagles defense this week to really put some pressure on them and make them make mistakes. Montgomery, you got to start him because he got so much work last week and they're just going to continue it. I mean, he's their guy right now, win or lose to the end, which, the Bears aren't out of playoff contention by any means yet. So they're going to see what they have in this kid. So it is an awesome front for the Eagles with the run block. With the run defense, but I would start Montgomery. You can't really bench him after he's had a really good week last week. And the only guy besides Montgomery I would start would be Allen Robinson. I think he's poised to have a pretty good week. If anybody does, he should definitely be that one receiver that gets off. But other than that, Cohen hasn't been consistent enough for me. Obviously, I mentioned Trubisky, and they don't even have a tight end, I don't think. They have our old tight end, Trey Burton, who had a decent year last year. I think we said he ranked in the top 10 or 12, and he's completely absent this year.
I mean, their whole offense is completely absent. I mean, yeah. It seems like, Mitch Trubisky is taking a step back. If anybody saw that the stat they put on ESPN I believe it was on the fantasy show before the games, he's got a 25.7 passer rating against pressure. Like, the dude is shell shocked.
That's why I think that what's his name's going to come out. Blitz packages and everything. Schwartz, thank you.
He's got to put pressure. Yeah, they got to get pressure on him. I think he'll see that that stat that you just read, and he'll take advantage.
Yeah, I'm calling a big Eagles win here. I really, Deshaun Jackson. I don't think people realize just how much he unlocks this offense. Just watch game 1. Just watch week 1. If you watch week 1, it just, you can just see it how good this dude is. And don't get me wrong, it was against a bad Washington Redskins team, but the fear of God that this dude's speed puts on defenses just opens everything up for everyone else. And that's why I love Alshon this week. I think Alshon's going to have a big game because I think Djax being out there and just, making safeties not be able to cheat up on him and on any of these receivers, Ertz, Jeffrey. I like both of those guys because I think Jackson opens up the field. I honestly think this is a big Eagles win.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 touchdowns, but I guess we'll see.
We hope. All right, so my next game is the Jets and Dolphins. What a game. I can't wait to watch this one. All right, I'm just going to say this. All right, yes, Sam Darnold has a great matchup, and I'm seeing a lot of start-sit questions about, do I start Sam Darnold over so-and-so? Be intelligent here. We talked the other day, like somebody was asking about Lamar Jackson or Sam Darnold. Like, you're not sitting Lamar Jackson for Sam Darnold. I don't care what the matchup is. I saw one that Sam Darnold or Matt Stafford. Like, Matt Stafford has been balling, and he's got his own good matchup this week. Why would you start? Like,
he has the
be
best
smart.
matchup for quarterbacks.
Yeah, like, did you not see Aaron Rodgers throw for 5 touchdowns and did Deshaun Watson go crazy last week? Like, I mean, let's be smart. So, you just if you need a quarterback, you got your guy on bye. Maybe you have Jared Goff. Maybe you had Drew Brees, and you don't have your backup quarterback in there, or you're picking a guy up off the waiver wire. Yes, Sam Darnold is a good start this week to fill in for bye weeks, but you're not starting him over some of these quarterbacks that just have been balling all year. You're just not. He's a perfect bye week fill-in for this week. Le'Veon Bell, I talked about him the other day. I think Le'Veon's poised for a big day in this one. He finally gets a good matchup. They haven't really had a real good matchup yet, and he was crying about I don't want to say crying. He voiced his concern about not getting touches to his coach. His coach said he's got to get him more involved. So I think that Le'Veon's going to be extremely used in this game. As far as the receivers for the Jets, I like them all. I would not hesitate to start Robbie Anderson. I would not hesitate to start Jamison Crowder, and I would not hesitate to start Demaryius Thomas, even if you needed a receiver. We just talked about Demaryius, I think, on Monday. Demaryius Thomas, in 2 of his last 4 games, has got 9 targets. Like Steve just said it. Adam Gase is throwing the ball 9 times to Demaryius Thomas. Like, Demaryius Thomas is going to get some touches, and this is the perfect opportunity, perfect situation. So if you do need a wide receiver, he's definitely 3rd on the list of Jets receivers that I would be playing. But, I wouldn't, mind playing him if you're in a bad spot. Chris Herndon, I don't know if I'm starting Chris Herndon just yet. He is questionable this week, but I do think he's going to play. But I would want to see what he's got to offer first. He did have a rapport with Darnold at the end of last season, but we just haven't even seen him on the field yet. So I would wait a week and see what you get out of him. As far as the Dolphins go, Fitzpatrick, I don't know. I'm not really excited about starting any Dolphins. I'll just say that. I mean, Preston Williams, Devontae Parker, if you're in a tough spot, I mean, you can start them, but outside of that, I mean, you're just not confident. I'm not confident starting Mark Walton yet. He's just not getting enough touches. Kalen Ballage seems like he's a goal line vulture as well. So, outside of that, I maybe Devontae Parker or Preston Williams, but I'm just never excited about starting Dolphins because you never know what you're going to get from that team.
Yep, I hear you.
All right, Steve, anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, you're up. You have the Titans and Panthers.
All right, so this game I honestly picked because I want to see how Derrick Henry plays against this Panthers run defense, because this run defense of the Panthers, we saw what happened with the 49ers last week. They got a 51 burger on them. Coleman just had 11 carries in that game and just completely tore them apart. So I know they're going to be more geared up to stop the run in this game because of what happened last week. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do it, honestly. I think this, the Luan Saffold left side of this offensive line is just really good. I mean, they're just really good. So I think, I think Derrick Henry's going to eat in this game. I really like Derrick Henry this week. He's probably, a top 12 guy for me. I'm actually finishing up my ranks today. I'm pretty sure I have him at 11. But I might have him higher than that, actually, now I'm thinking about it. But either way, I like Henry this week. And then on the offensive, for the wide receivers, I'm not really trusting any of these guys. I love A.J. Brown because of his talent, but it just makes me a little bit nervous going up against Bradbury and Jackson. I think these guys are two legit corners. Cockrell's been playing a lot better. Cockrell was a guy in the beginning of the season that we were kind of picking on, but, as of late, he's been playing a lot better. We saw how well, Emmanuel Sanders played this past Thursday. And, he had, I think, 60? And he got that touchdown in the beginning of the game. But other than that, they basically held them in check in the passing game. But the run, like I said, the running game was just going bananas. So, I think you're going to have to, I wouldn't say, sit these guys if you're trying to start Corey Davis because, the bye weeks or whatever. It just makes me nervous. I think he has a tough matchup against Bradbury. Jonnu Smith, I actually like in this game. If you watch what Kittle did to them last week, Jonnu Smith is big and athletic. He's not as athletic as George Kittle, but he is big and athletic, and I think they're going to use him in this offense. So, Tannehill looked like he had a nice little rapport with him last week. He's going to get the start again this week. So, I like Jonnu Smith as, a low-end number one tight end. And, other than that, I'm not starting Humphreys. I'm not starting Tajay Sharp. A.J. Brown, I'm starting if, case of emergency, basically. So that's it for the Titan side of the ball. On the Carolina Panthers side of the ball, Christian McCaffrey, we're not even going to really talk about Christian McCaffrey. He's in your lineup every single week. DJ Moore, I really like his matchup. This week, LaShawn Sims is going to be guarding him, and I just think he's going to eat, honestly. I think Kyle Allen wants to make immense for that ridiculously terrible game. And don't get me wrong, the 49ers defense is been doing that to a lot of quarterbacks, but he was bad last week. Like, really, really, really bad last week. The interceptions that he threw were, like, terrible. Not one of them was a tipped ball that you could even be like, oh, my God, it was tipped. It wasn't. They weren't tipped balls. They were just straight interceptions. So, if he has a bounce back game, I definitely think it's because DJ Moore, gets a lot more involved. Samuel's going up against, Malcolm Butler. I like Samuel, but I don't know if I'm going to start him against Butler. I feel a lot more comfortable with Moore. And then Greg Olsen, he is basically a low-end tight end one. He's just super boring. He's not a guy that, you're expecting to get a whole lot of points from. You're just hoping he gets you 5 for 50 and a touchdown, honestly. 3 for, 40 and a touchdown. That's kind of what you're hoping for from Greg Olsen at this point. Yeah, and that's basically it for me. There's no really anybody else on this team that I'm really starting. Kyle Allen, I'm not starting Kyle Allen this week. After what I saw last week, going up against this tough Tennessee defense, DJ Moore is really the only pass catcher that I want to be involved with Kyle Allen and, Christian McCaffrey. So that's it. Tennessee Titans defense is awesome.
Yeah, I've actually started Tennessee's defense quite a few times in streaming this year. All right, Dan, you're up. You got Pittsburgh and Indy.
I don't like this game. There's not really. I mean, this one's a beat up type game where you really don't have a lot of stars in there. I mean, I like the running backs. I definitely like Samuels because Colts are not a very good run blocking team or run defensive team. So Samuels, with Connor being out, Samuels is an absolute must start. So I think he's poised to have a big game. Besides Samuels on Pittsburgh, I mean, Juju Smith obviously is a play, but I don't like anybody else. I don't like Rudolph. I don't like McDonald. Johnson has been stronger the last couple of weeks, but still not a guy that you can really consistently play. So, I mean, just pretty much Samuels and Juju on the Pittsburgh side of the ball, and on the Colts side of the ball, Ty is out. I have Marlon Mack, and that's it. Maybe Brissett, but Pittsburgh's got a good defense. I mean, Brissett's been very, very surprisingly still good. We've been saying it since week one. He's a legit quarterback this year. He's doing an awesome job in Indy. But Pittsburgh has a good defense, and I don't think anybody's really riding Brissett, every week. I think people that are playing Brissett right now are playing him for matchups, with another quarterback they might have on the same level. So it really depends on what your team is looking like. If Brissett is the better of the other guy that you might have on that team, then give him a go. But if not, then he's not a must start. He's not your Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson where he's locked in there every single week. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This one was short and sweet. The over-under is only 40, so Vegas obviously doesn't think there's going to be a whole lot of points scored either. I think it's going to be a snooze fest.
All right, so my next game is Bucks and Seahawks. All right, from the Bucks side of the ball, Jameis Winston this week is not a terrible play. They're probably going to have to throw the ball a ton to keep up with Seattle. He's going to throw interceptions. It happens every week. He just cannot go a week without throwing picks, but he's going to get you a ton of stats. Jameis Winston, I believe right now is still a top 12 quarterback. So statistically, he's going to score fantasy points. Fantasy quarterbacks aren't always good NFL quarterbacks. The receivers, you're obviously starting, good Godwin and Evans. In a run game, I'm not starting either one of these guys. They haven't shown anything over the last couple weeks. Tight end, Cameron Brate with O.J. Howard out, to me, is a guy I would definitely start if you need help at that position, which a lot of people do. Cameron Brate has had a lot of chemistry over the years with Jameis Winston, and the Seahawks are very vulnerable to the tight end position. So I do believe that Cameron Brate is a solid start if you need help at the tight end. From the Seahawks, obviously Russell, you're starting. Carson, you're starting. Tyler Lockett, you're starting. DK Metcalf in this one, I'd be starting. I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if there's any other pass catchers I'd be starting on Seattle, but I think both of those guys are very relevant. This Bucs defense can't stop anybody in the passing game. Chris Carson's been a beast all year, so obviously they're starting him. Their tight end has been pretty irrelevant since Will Dissly went down. So, and obviously the Seahawks defense is probably a good start because they're probably going to get a few takeaways in this one. So that's pretty much it for this one. I think it could be a pretty high scoring game, honestly, if the Bucs can, get going in the air, but I don't see the Buccaneers defense stopping Seattle at all.
Yeah, no. And without Trey Flowers in this game, that's really going to hurt, this Seattle Seahawks defense. They Akeem King cannot cover Mike Evans, so I would not be surprised if Mike Evans has another 152 touchdown game in this game. Honestly, I think they're gonna have to put Shaquille Griffin on him a lot, and Shaquille Griffin is not really a shadow corner, so it's going to be a bad situation.
It's just crazy because if you look at them, like every week that one receiver for them blows up, the other receiver is only okay. You know what I mean? Like Godwin will blow up, Evans will be like, or Evans, the one game had a 0. You know what I mean? And then Evans will blow up and Godwin will be like, he had an okay game. It's like Jameis can't have multiple receivers blowing up. It can't happen for him. When he throws the other guy, he just turns the ball over, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, I think both of them could have it. Like you said, both of them could have a big. And I know you said they don't really do that, but in this game, this game they might.
Possible.
Yeah, this game they might.
Is possible because they're going to have to throw a ton, and Seattle is, if they're vulnerable on pass defense.
Definitely, and Jamar Taylor is covering Godwin, so it's going to be a long day for Jamar this week.
All right, you're up, Steve. You have the Chiefs and Vikings.
Yes.
I even almost said Redskins.
Yeah, Chiefs Vikings. For me, I picked this game. I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is going to play in this game. I know people are excited to get him back, but I think they'll be smart and sit him at least one more week.
He's not.
Yeah. So, Matt Moore going up against this Vikings defense. He showed last week that he can do the job. So he's not going to kill you, but he's also not going to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, we kind of know that. I mean, if you watched last week, he has a nice little rapport with Travis Kelce, which I said he probably would. And he's got a nice little rapport with, Tyreek Hill. So once again, those are the 2 guys you're starting. He threw the ball a lot to Sammy Watkins, and Sammy Watkins just didn't do anything with it because Sammy Watkins is just a shell of what he was in college. So, I'm not starting Sammy. I know some fantasy analysts out there are toting him, but, for me, I'm not worried about Sammy. Sammy can, sit on some, waiver wire for me. The running backs in this game are interesting because we don't know after that fumble with Sean McCoy if he's going to be limited touch-wise because Andy Reid is just, punishing him for that fumble, or if, he's going to let him go ahead and do his thing. Clearly, LaShawn McCoy is the best running back. But
I was going to say, dude, if LaShawn McCoy wasn't fumbling footballs, he would literally be the guy probably in Kansas City right now.
Oh, definitely. And, I agree with that totally. But unfortunately, he is fumbling.
He is fumbling.
Unfortunately, he is fumbling. So at this point, my best fantasy analysis for you guys would be just stay away from it this week. Let's this week play itself out so we see who's the guy getting the more touches, and then worry about it next week because, there's still guys, Adrian Peterson and, those low-end Frank Gore and those low-end running backs that you can play this week and, get some points than, relying on Damian Williams and then Damian Williams gets 3 touches, or relying on LaShawn McCoy and they limit him to 7 touches. You know what I mean? It's just this week, let's watch, with our eyeballs and find out what's going on with these running backs and then go from there. And that's it for the Kansas City side of the ball. If I would start Matt Moore if you were like really desperate, but most fantasy owners are not that desperate. On the Viking side of the ball, yeah, I like Cousins. I like Diggs. If Thielen plays, I like Thielen this week. Cook is, I think Cook is probably going to be the highest owned player in DFS this week. Just, this Kansas City defense, we saw what, Aaron Jones did to them last week, and Dalvin Cook is better than Aaron Jones. So, he could have a hell of a game in this game. And, that's really it. I'm not starting Kyle Rudolph. I'm not really starting anybody else. It's basically those 4 guys, Diggs, Thielen, Cook, and, Cousins. And that's basically it. This offensive line, I will say, has been playing really well, especially lately. So don't, Cousins, I think, has a safe floor, but don't be mad if he doesn't get you 303. You're probably looking more like a 202 game or 201 game. So he's not going, or 225, 250 and 1. So it's not going to completely devastate your team, but it's, he's just a low end, QB1, QB2, or, high end QB2. So, I'm not going out of my way to start Kirk Cousins, but, I don't think he kills you in this game because I do think Cook does have a big game here. I just don't see how, the Chiefs are going. They just don't have the speed to keep up with, Cook in this zone running scheme. They just don't. So, it's going to be a long day for Andy and this Chiefs team if they don't score some points because I think this game is going to have some points scored.
All right, Dan, you are up next. You have the Browns and Broncos.
All right, so start with the Browns side of the ball. Good old Baker Mayfield back in the news again, talking about his desire to play and blah blah blah. But Denver's definitely spiraling downward, but their defense is the one point of emphasis that they've been pretty good at, decent with. So, I mean, obviously, I don't know. I don't care who you're playing unless they're playing the Dolphins. I don't think you were starting Baker anyway. He has not shown any consistency as all this year. So, Baker's a bench for just about everybody. Jarvis Landry is a tough start this week. I mean, talked smack last week to the Patriots, didn't show up, didn't say anything yet, but it's just he's got another tough matchup. So, I mean, maybe in a flex in a PPR because he is always going to see some targets. But if you got better options out there than Landry, by all means, I don't think Landry's going out and putting up 150 and 2 touchdowns. So, he's not a very safe floor with him. So, Odell, you got to always start Odell. If you have Odell, you draft him the first round, you're never going to bench him. So, Odell, and he's the type of guy that can put up 200 yards and 2 touchdowns any given week, regardless of how bad Baker's been playing. So, Odell's a start and Chubb's a start. Those are the only 2 definite guys on Browns. Chubb's just been incredible. He's pretty much, you're probably your number 1 running back right now if you have Chubb. Denver, I'm a little worried on Cortland Sutton now that there is no Emmanuel Sanders, across from him on the other side. Manuel, even though he wasn't having a great year in Denver, Sutton's been clearly the better and more targeted receiver. We don't know, if Sanders' ability was taking, taking away a lot of the number 1 defensive guy, and that's why he was getting so much work and coming through with it. So, I think I think you're going to play Sutton against the Browns defense that hasn't been very good, the secondary especially. So Sutton is a starter for me, but if he doesn't put up these points that he's been putting up, then I can't say I'm surprised, especially with the new quarterback in. Joe Flacco's been stinking, but at least Joe Flacco still has the big arm. So it's the only thing I can say with pretty good confidence is that these 2 running backs, they've been very, very good all year, getting you anywhere between 12 points to 20 points, both of them pretty much every week. So, and not one, there's been weeks where one guy has taken a little more of a role than the other guy and vice versa, but they've been pretty much dueling it out. And that's how there's Philip Lindsay, 55, Royce Freeman, 45. I mean, it's that close. It's been that close all year. So the 3 of us pretty much all called that. We said that we didn't think either of these guys were going to, Lindsay is the better running back, but you look and every third down, Royce Freeman's in there because he's the better pass catcher, and they use him a ton on third down, and he has a way of like James White and finding that space. So yeah, I mean, as far as in conclusion with these 2 running backs, they're pretty much in my eyes. I think right now Denver's only hope of getting into the end zone with Allen being his first start. There's no Emmanuel Sanders out there. Noah Fant has just been absolutely just disgraceful. So, yeah, I mean, you're basically just starting the running backs, and if you need basically like I said with Jarvis Landry, if you need a flex, you can start Sutton because he's been good at times. But we're in week 9 now. I mean, your roster pretty well, so do what you think is going to most benefit your team.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, Sutton this week could be tough with Brandon Allen back there at quarterback. You don't know what Brandon Allen's going to give you.
Yeah.
My next game will be the Patriots and Ravens. This is the Sunday night game. Could be a fun game to watch. The Ravens this year have just been, exciting with Lamar Jackson being in there, even though they're running the ball a ton as they did last year. Lamar Jackson improving in the pass game, it just makes them so much more entertaining to watch. And the Patriots are just the Patriots. So this could be, one of those games where, everybody's eyes are glued to the TV. I think you're starting Tom Brady, obviously, in this one. Ravens have not been very good against the pass. They're probably a little bit better against the run. So I do think Brady has a good game. I think I actually have him ranked I have Brady ranked number 5. Yeah. So I'm very high on Tom Brady this week. Again, against the Ravens. You're Sony Michel, you're never really going to be excited to me about starting Sony Michel because he's only going to give you 40 yards. You're just praying to God that he falls into the end zone twice to salvage it, because that's all he's been doing. Me and Steve talked about it, I think Monday, like how the guy he drops into the end zone 2 times, but he's only giving you 40 yards. I was a little higher on Michel before the season than Steve. Steve was very down on him to the point where he thought Damian Harris would take the job eventually. I watched a few Patriots games, and Sony Michel just looks like he's running in cement. He literally never breaks tackles, he's not quick. He's not, elusive or getting through the hole. He just doesn't look exciting. I just don't think the Patriots have a better option. I think if they got a better option, they would go into a different direction, because I don't think Sony Michel is really that good. But at the same time, like I said, he's been pretty good for fantasy because he's been scoring a lot of touchdowns. So, you're probably starting him if you have him, just because of his track record over the last couple weeks. James White is questionable in this one. If James White is healthy, I think he's a very good start. This could be a game where Tom Brady is, checking down to James White a lot. They use James White a lot more in closer games and, games that are meaningful. This Ravens game could be a big one, considering both teams are very, very good. So James White could be a very good start if he winds up playing. Julian Edelman, obviously, you're starting if he's healthy. If he's healthy, because he's questionable as well. Other receiver, Mohamed Sanu. I'm not really excited. Yeah, I'm not really excited about Sanu yet. He really didn't jump off the page last week. So I don't think I'd be starting Sanu just yet.
You might not start Sanu. He might just be that guy that just is like a little security for the Patriots. A good third down guy. A guy that just can pick up the offense super fast, reliable. I don't think they were expecting Sanu to come out there and honestly put up the numbers that Josh Gordon could have put up. Josh Gordon had that potential to be that big play guy. And I think they just wanted to move on from Gordon and pick a guy that's more stable.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers, I wouldn't be starting him either. He hasn't shown breakout fantasy potential. So really you're starting, Brady, Michel, James White if he's healthy, and Julian Edelman. And that to me is pretty much it from the Patriots side of the ball. From the Ravens side of the ball, obviously you're starting Lamar Jackson. Don't get any cute ideas. You're starting Lamar Jackson. Mark Ingram, you're starting Mark Ingram. Like, he's been way too good this year to decide to bench him. I know the Patriots defense is tough, but I do think that they haven't been challenged yet, and this could be a good challenge for them. And
Nick Chubb did run for like 120 some yards on him as well. So
yeah, exactly.
They've been ran on way more than, obviously they haven't been thrown on at all, nothing, but they have been ran on a little bit here and there.
Yeah, Nick Chubb was able to rip off. If Nick Chubb didn't have the 2 fumbles, his game would have looked a whole lot better. Right. Especially his fantasy game. His fantasy game looked bad just because 4 points were taken away on the fumbles.
Yep. 20 for 131 last week.
Yep. Yeah. Mark Andrews, you're starting. He's a quality tight end that you're going to start every week. He's a guy that's going to put up numbers. Hollywood Brown, he's coming back from injury. I don't think I'd be ready to start him yet. I don't think Stephon Gilmore is going to be on him all game. I don't know if he's one of those guys that you actually have to shadow yet, but at the same time, he just hasn't been healthy, and I don't think he's going to be a guy that's going to break out against the Patriots defense. So on the Ravens side of the ball, you're really starting Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram, and Mark Andrews.
Hollywood will be on my bench just like he was in week 1, and if he'll go for another 3 touchdowns and 200 yards, watch. No, not against the Patriots, but no, in my luck.
Never. All right, Steve, you're up next. You have the Lions and Raiders.
Yeah, this is actually a game I'm excited for. I picked this game specifically because I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be maybe even the highest-scoring game of the week. This Raiders defense, not that Garyon Conley was any better than what they have now, but we saw what happened with the Packers 2 weeks ago. We saw what happened last week against the Texans. They're just getting beat like a drum. And the funny part is, like, Darryl Worley and Trevon Mullen, they're actually not terrible. You know what I mean? They are pretty good. So I don't know what it is why they're getting beat deep, but against Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones, these are two guys that can get deep, and I think that's where their trouble lies. I mean, we saw what happened in that Kansas City game a couple weeks back. Was it like 4 or 5 weeks ago that Robinson had that almost 200 yards and 3 touchdown game. We saw everybody's just been beating this team deep. They have a really difficult time stopping the deep ball. And Kenny Galladay has been one of the best deep ball receivers this year. Marvin Jones is always one of the best deep ball receivers in football every year. He's always that guy that goes out and catches you, a 60-yard touchdown in a game. So they're both very good deep ball receivers. And like I told you guys last week, Danny Amendola, with as bad as this running game has been crazily targeted. I said to start him last week, and he did the same thing. He had 9 catches, I believe it was for 90 yards, or 8 catches for 90 yards, something like that. But I think he has a super safe floor. I think you're going to get double digits from Danny Amendola, and I trust him in this week. T.J. Hawkinson is another guy that I'm playing. T.J. Hawkinson has been playing very good the past couple of weeks, and I wouldn't say very good, but he's been targeted a little bit more, and he's been dropping touchdowns. That's what's been killing him. In this game, going up against Carl Joseph, and then going up Nicholas Morrow, those guys just are not going to be able to stay up with this kid. Like he has definitely really good pass catching ability, and I like TJ this week. As a number, I think I have him number 9 in my tight end ranks. We have no Hooper this week. We have no, there's a couple of guys missing this week that Everett that would be in our starting lineups, every week. So, Hawkinson I definitely think is a tight end 1 this week, and Matthew Stafford is probably, like I said, he's my number 3 quarterback on the week. So, I think he has a huge game in this game. And then on the other side of the ball, I think it's the same thing. I really like Terrell Williams this week. I like Waller this week. I love David Carr this week, as, DFS option and as a starting quarterback if you need a starting quarterback this week, because let's say you have, Matt Ryan, who, was hurt last week and is, obviously on bye this week. Pick up David Carr and play him this week. Derek Carr.
Or Kyler Murray, who I benched, and now I need more than 30 points from Derek Carr.
So yeah, Derek Carr I really like. I like this week. I just think this game is going to shoot out. Hope so. Yeah, what is this over under, Dan? What is it, like 50?
Yeah, I think it's 50 or 50 and a half, somewhere around there.
Yeah, see, so it's just Vegas agrees. They just think it's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be a really fun game to watch. Josh Jacobs, I just love this kid. Like, I've watched his past 3 games, and man, he's just awesome. I really, really like this kid. He's not Saquon elusive, but he's pretty damn elusive for his size. He's like nimble as hell with his feet.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's hard to take down. He's nimble. You know what I mean? I just wish they used him more in the passing game. If they used him more in the passing game, he'd be like a top 5 running back, because he just looks so damn good. And I'm hoping, John Gruden, I have to give him props, because John Gruden has actually been calling some really good offensive games. We know he's an offensive coach, but he's been calling some really good offensive games the past couple of weeks. I want to say Derek Carr hasn't had a game where he threw for less than 2 touchdowns in any game this year. So, we know Derek is not the greatest quarterback in the history of the world, but he looks pretty damn good this year. You know what I mean? He's doing the job.
With no Brown either. I mean, imagine what his stats would be with Brown.
Oh, my God. Yeah, exactly. I think if Antonio Brown would have stayed there, this would be one of the best offenses in football. It really would.
It really would. It just doesn't make sense. And what's crazy is, like, you look at what Tyrell Williams is doing, like he's having a really good year. Could you imagine if that was Antonio Brown? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it'd be ridiculous. Like, he's so much better than Tyrell Williams. Can you if you put him in that spot, this Raiders offense would be really, really good.
Yes, I think this would definitely be, a team vying for the playoffs. I don't know about a Super Bowl run, but I think they could win, a wild card round and get into the the conference rounds definitely, or the divisional rounds definitely.
All right, so next game up is Chargers and Green Bay.
Chargers and Packers. I'll start with the Chargers. Not really a whole lot to say about the Chargers. The team itself, very disappointing year. The last couple of weeks, we've just been consistently not bashing them, but just talking about the just the disappointment of them as a whole. But fantasy wise, I think you can start both running backs still. Eckler's, he hasn't really taken a backseat to Gordon. I mean, obviously they're trying to get Gordon involved more and more, but it could be a reason that they have been so bad over the last few weeks. They're just, ever since Gordon came back, they've just been, trying to, he just doesn't look great, but he's still got to start Gordon because he's Melvin Gordon and he's got the ability to score his touchdowns, and he's going to get a majority of the touches. I think right now he's getting 60-70% of the touches still, but Eckler's getting the third down work, and Eckler he's getting saved in PPR by his volume of passes. So both guys are still getting pretty decent fantasy output. On the receiving end of things, Keenan Allen is he's Keenan Allen. He's pretty much your every week starter. He's had a couple of rough weeks because his team is just not looks good offensively at all. But you're still starting Keenan Allen. He's still in my eyes the top 10, 12 receiver in this league. Hunter Henry is, when he's out there, he's showing why he was so highly regarded. He is a target machine. He looks great. So, he looks like he's healthy now. I mean, that could change week to week with Hunter Henry, unfortunately, but he doesn't carry any kind of injury status this week. So, definitely Hunter Henry is a good option. I'm just not buying the Phillip Rivers train right now. I just think he's too all over the place, not consistently enough this year. I mean, he's probably still, 15 range as far as quarterbacks go and, ranking, but I think right now in a 10, 12 man league, you got better guys that you can play than Phillip Rivers. I know there's 4 teams on a bye. A couple quarterbacks went down. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but the Packers, I think, have a better defense and, have a better defense this year than they've had in past. And they're just a really balanced team. A lot of people think that Packers are, top 3 or 5 team in the whole league. So yeah, I'm not really liking Phillip Rivers for this week, but as far as on the Packers go, we're playing the waiting game right now with Devontae Adams. If Devontae's playing, you're obviously playing him. I don't care if he is 70%. The other receivers are just terrible. The other receivers are so bad that Rodgers is throwing 400 yards to his running backs. I mean, and that's facts. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Scanling had a couple big catches. You take away those 2 big catches that MVS had, and between their 2 starting receivers right now, they are beyond terrible. Allison is, he's good for like 2 catches and 12 yards a game, and that MVS had that 2-catch 130-yard game. Besides that, he hasn't done anything over the last like 7 or 8 weeks either. So I guess that's why Rodgers is going to his running backs, but. I like obviously Aaron Jones, you're starting. And I like Jamal Williams too. I think that the Chargers defense is complete train wreck. I think that they're poised to probably let up another 30 points. So, Rodgers is a starter. Jones is a starter. A lot of people are, still iffy about Williams, but he's been getting a lot of work. I mean, both of these running backs are, just like I said about the Chargers, they're both viable starters, and same thing goes with this running back core, especially since, aside from Adams, I mean, if Adams doesn't start, then I don't mind starting Scanling, but if Adams is playing, I'm not starting Scantling. I think he just, goes right to the back burner. So Jimmy Graham, I'm not haven't been high on Jimmy Graham pretty much all year. He caught a couple touchdowns this year, but there's been no consistency with him. Looks slow, looks old. So
it seems like every time we say not to start Jimmy, he goes off, and every time we say to start him, he does nothing.
Yeah. So don't start him, and then he'll have 4 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown against Chargers. Which, if he's gonna have a good week, this could be the week against his bad Chargers D. But I just think he's just a 12 to 15, number 12 to 15 tight end right now. I think you probably have a better tight end, but who knows? Tight ends stink this year. It's a tough call with tight end. They're bad this year. A lot of the guys we expected to really do well are not doing well, and besides from a couple surprises, there really is a top 5, maybe top 6, and that's it. It's only those 6 guys you can rely on and bank on every week, and hope you got this Jonnu Smith who might potentially be someone good to keep an eye on, but it's a rough position.
Yeah, real quick, I think I'm gonna go out on a limb this week and say that Mike Williams finally has a touchdown this week. Okay, so, and this is my reasoning. So if you look at the wide receivers that Jari Alexander has had issues with, it's been big body wide receivers. Amari Cooper and just guys that have big frames and are fast. Mike Williams I wouldn't say he's the fastest of wide receivers, but he's pretty good. He's got pretty good speed, and he's very big. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Williams has a game this week. So, if you're trying to take a chance on a wide receiver, Mike Williams might be one that might have a little something this week.
Hey, heard it here first. Mike Williams is going to have a touchdown.
Yes, sir.
All right, my last final game of the night is Cowboys and Giants. It's the Monday night game. From the Cowboys side of the ball, Dak Prescott is an obvious start. Ezekiel Elliott is an obvious start. Amari Cooper is an obvious start. I think Michael Gallup is an obvious start this week. Jason Witten, probably not. I mean, if you're hurting at tight end and you need a guy, a bye week fill-in, I mean, I like other bye week fill-ins, but if you're comfortable with Witten, he does always seem to fall into the end zone against the Giants. So,
yeah, I think it's like 4 straight games with a touchdown against the Giants or something crazy. Yeah.
So, that's pretty much it. I mean, you're starting. All those guys have potential for big games. If you remember week 1, Gallup had a big game. Cooper had a big game. Zeke was not as huge in that one, but Tony Pollard was getting a lot more touches then. Right now, Zeke's getting all the work. Tony Pollard may get a drive here and there. On the Giants side of the ball, I'm not starting Daniel Jones yet. A lot of people are riding the Danny Dimes wagon after last week, but I just don't think you can start him until he shows a little more consistency. Saquon Barkley, obviously you're starting. Evan Ingram, you're obviously starting. The receiving core, Golden Tate is probably a flex option. Sterling Shepard looks to be healthy this week and ready to play. I probably would wait a week to see what he's giving you, but he's another guy that could fit into that offense and give Daniel Jones another pass catcher. So, keep your eyes open on that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I wouldn't start Darius Slayton to me, not in this matchup. And the Cowboys defense is a very good start this week.
Evan Ingram, just real quick, he had, 11 for 111?
Yeah,
and a touchdown. Yeah, huge week 1 game. So, I wouldn't expect that same output, but I would not be surprised if he had, anywhere from 5 to 8 catches for 50 and 100. You gotta remember
he can go for 100 any week. I mean, he's like a big receiver as a tight end.
Yeah, you got to remember that was an Eli Manning game, and it looks like Eli Manning had a much better rapport with Ingram than Jones does. But if Jones saw that week 1 game, he has to see that they had a tough time guarding Ingram, and hopefully he gets him some targets. So, I do really like Ingram this week.
All right, and there you have it. That is the end of our Friday night podcast. Remember, don't forget to check us out on the website, www.fourthandinchesff.com. That's www.4thandinchesff.com for a bunch of content, articles, blogs, player profiles, rankings, and you can subscribe to our VIP content. And until next time, peace out, guys.
Later.
Peace.